Good morning, Bull. Good morning, G. Good morning, Jason. As always, man, you all know I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't really sportsing like I want them to. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going wherever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets, and anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Bull, for the first time since the year 2000, the Cleveland Guardians have two starters for the American League All-Stars, those guys being Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan. So congratulations to them. What's your thoughts on that?
Very excited about it. As you said, first time since 2000, right? I think in 2000 they might have had four guys. If I remember correctly, it might have been Tommy, Manny, Kenny Lofton. Was Kenny Lofton in 2000? Or was he? I can't remember now.
Kenny
was
Roberto
definitely
Alomar?
99. No. There was one year, it might not have been 2000, it might have been before that, where you had Kenny, Manny, Jim Thome, and Roberto Alomar were all starters for the All-Star game one year.
They had 1 year where they had an all-star at every position. Not necessarily for that year.
Not a starter, but
No, not like that year, but they had appeared in an all-star game.
Gotcha.
Think about that.
That's
the
crazy.
Cleveland Indians had an all-star at every position, and that was like 90. It was Will Cordero was here. It was like 99, I think, 98, something like that.
And wasn't Matt Williams here too?
For 1 year.
That was crazy.
Yeah, he was a 1 year stopover.
I mean, that was that
97
generation of the Indians is the best in my mind. It's the best baseball team I've ever seen that's not won a World Series.
No question.
I mean, it's hard to believe they didn't win one. I know I don't mean to make people feel bad, but
I mean,
it's so hard to believe.
As Bull would say, even our slappies were hitting 40. Brian Giles, Richie Sextons of the world.
Paul Kia Sorrento. There you go.
These guys just hit 20 home runs.
Yeah. Everybody. I mean, those lineups were just crazy. Some of those years. Yep. We didn't even mention Albert Bell. Eddie Murray. You know, I mean, it goes on and on. But right now, we talked the other day about it being a good time to be a Cleveland sports fan because if the Guardians make the playoffs, we talked about this, by the way. I don't know. I mentioned this on my podcast the other day, so for those who maybe didn't hear it, we were discussing the other day on Wednesday whether this would be the first time all three teams went to the playoffs in the same year. And it actually would be the second time.
Well, what year?
1995, because remember, the Browns made the playoffs in the 94 season. They made the playoffs. It's the 95, but they played the games in 95.
Okay.
And the Cavs made it that year, and that was, of course, the first year of the Indians making the playoffs was 95.
See, that's what's hard about this because
for the football, does it count as the year?
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. You played one playoff game in January 95. That doesn't count.
So you're saying it should be the 95 season?
It should be the 95 season.
Yeah.
Should it not? But it's hard to.
It depends.
You almost have to do it 2 years in a row, and then you can say, okay,
Well, based on that, they've never done it, and they still wouldn't here because the Browns would have to make it this next season.
Right.
But, it is still a really good stretch because it's the first time really ever that all three teams are good and have a promising future. In the mid-'90s, the Browns were about to be out of town.
Right.
So, obviously, there was no bright future there. The Indians were just starting to become obviously in 94 they were really good too, and then the strike. But
could you talk yourself into all three teams have a chance to win a championship right
yes.
now?
We talked about this a little on Wednesday. We'll get back to the Guardians specifically in a second, but I think we all agreed on Wednesday's panel that actually the Guardians have the best chance, followed by the Browns closely, and then a drop to the Cavs, but all three. Yes.
And then I even went a step further and I said the Guardians are always in a perpetual sense of them being the best chances of winning just because of the Rangers and guys like that. When the Rangers and the Diamondbacks went, I said these guys can go every year. It just, and they don't even have great pitching, and they're like 30 games over 50.
And that's why they've set up the organization this way. They don't hide that. They want to be competitive every single year and give themselves a chance every single year. There is no big tear down and rebuild with this team. They're constantly rebuilding while competing. They're flying the plane while they build it every single year.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And really, I mean, since the mid-'90s, except for when LeBron's been here, they've almost always been the the best of the three teams.
Yeah.
And the road for the Browns is just like we talked about it. Like the Browns, because of the division they play in, they're gonna get beat up a little bit. And to beat Kansas City, you're pretty much gonna have to have home field. They won't have home field.
Right.
It's hard for anybody in the AFC North. So you're gonna have to see yourself going to Kansas City and winning.
Kansas City is kind of now where New England was for all those years with Brady. They're one of, if not the best team every year. Their division's not as good.
Yeah.
And so while like other teams have to battle, like the AFC North teams are all really good. Who's good in the AFC West? I don't know if anybody's good besides them in the West. Everybody's assuming the Chargers are going to be good because of Harbaugh, but it might not happen this year. It might take a couple of years. The Raiders are mediocre, and the Broncos stink, I think. But so, So not only they are the best team, not only did they have a year last year where all year we thought they were beatable, and then they won in the end.
On the road, by the way.
Right, on the road. But they're in this situation with a bad division.
Yeah.
So, even Buffalo. Buffalo's got the Jets are pretty good. The Dolphins are pretty good. The North is tough. The Texans, they play in an easier division, but Indianapolis is not bad, and neither is Jacksonville. Yeah. The West is the worst division. But anyway, let's get back to the Guardians here, guys.
Because they got more coming.
And well, they get 2 All-Star starters, which is quite a great accomplishment. I was saying this morning on the Guardian show. I think fans do a better job than they ever have voting for the All-Star game. And I think for years Jose Ramirez was underrated. I no longer think he's underrated. I think baseball fans know how good Jose Ramirez is.
We saw the list. He's in the top 7?
Right.
All the time.
I think he was overshadowed a little bit when Lindor was here.
I agree.
And
he wasn't a big prospect coming up, so he didn't get a lot of hype.
Right. And when Francisco left, I think the shine got a little brighter. When he took the contract he took, I think a lot of people took notice of that.
Yep.
And now he's established himself as a premier third baseman, as he should be.
Yeah. And Kwan like Stephen Kwan. I mean, how many people out of Cleveland had heard of this guy before this year? So for him to make it as a starter, to get voted in by fans across the country, is pretty amazing.
Do you think they... You can say election rigging going on.
Right.
Put a thumb on the scale for the guys who deserve it the most. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. Do you think baseball... I mean, how do we know? How do you know?
No, you don't know. And I wouldn't care, but
I just wonder if they sort of massage some votes for guys, which is for guys who deserve it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that, because you're right, we used to get some nutty all-stars that had no business being in there.
I mean, the NBA is the worst. The NBA,
I thought baseball was the worst back in the day.
Baseball used to be the worst.
Well, now in the NBA, you could just tell who's going to be an all-star. You just look, Steph Curry's the all-star. I don't care if he gets 19 points.
I never understood why fans voted for all of their players. I'm not voting for a player on my team if he doesn't deserve it.
Right.
The only time I would ever, when I vote, I vote once. I know some people, you can vote up to 10 times, but when I vote for All-Star Game, I vote for the guys who I think are the best players. I don't care if they're on my team. If it's a tiebreaker, if it's like neck and neck, okay, maybe I'll lean that way. But I don't know. Some people just vote. Like, are you voting for Brian Rocchio? Are you voting for Andres Jimenez?
I mean,
Bo Naylor? No thanks.
No. Well, let me keep it real. You talk about the Guardians, man. What if I'm voting for an All-Star for the Guardians and it's just in-house?
Yeah.
I don't know where they'd be without Lively. He has 8 wins now.
Yeah.
Well, he ain't lost at home in a minute. Like,
the fans don't get the vote for pitchers. Mm-hmm. That's always been the case for whatever reason.
That's weird too.
Yeah, I don't know why they've done that forever. But.
Well, I think part of it has to do with rotations and when your day falls and if it's worth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you could still vote the guys in and then just replace them if they're not able to pitch on that day.
That's true. It is odd.
Yeah. But it's always been the case.
Well, do you think it's because it's kind of hard to tell who's good? Like you said, like ERA and wins, right? No one's looking at that anymore.
I think it had something to do with that for years. They were like, the fans are idiots. Let's just let them vote on the hitters.
Right. Like if you tell me wins don't count no more and then ERA don't count, I'm like, well, what the heck are we looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, ERA
I still
counts.
look at ERA.
I look at ERA. I don't look at wins. When broadcasters mention wins, I'm always if it's a number that's unusually high or low, I'm always surprised because I never pay attention to it. The only reason I pay any attention at all is because it's a fantasy baseball category. Right. Only because there's just nothing better to replace it with, even though it's a terrible statistic. But well-deserved for Kwan. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Jose Ramirez. We know Josh Naylor's going to make it. You can make an argument that Josh should have been a starter too. We know that Emmanuel Clase is going to make it.
Yep.
The question is, will Ben Lively make it? I doubt it.
Unfortunately.
I still think David Fry's got a shot. In fact, Zach was telling me this morning he was reading an article by somebody, I think it was Tyler Kepner, who's an MLB writer, and he predicted that David Fry would get into the All-Star game. I mean, obviously his numbers have dropped significantly. The batting average down to 300, the OPS still up at 914. But those are still pretty big numbers. And I still think he might grab the third catcher spot.
He's a borderline guy. I don't think you can protest too much if he doesn't make it.
No. Not at all.
But certainly, you got 4 for sure.
Yeah,
and that may hurt his case as well.
That's true. But the Guardians have the best record in the American League, so
and
they deserve to have it.
Yeah.
And the Yankees going to have a lot of players, and the Dodgers.
The Yankees is playing terrible right now.
They have been playing terrible. I love it. I love it. I thought they would not be good this year. I was ready to eat crow about it. Now all of a sudden they're playing terribly, which I love. Go ahead, Earl.
So I read this on The Athletic. Despite finishing top 10 in MVP voting each of the past 4 seasons, Jose Ramirez has not started an All-Star game since 2018. Wow.
Yeah. That is surprising. I didn't realize it had been that long since he started the All-Star game. Yeah, I mean, just the fans are getting better. I mean, he's had a particularly great first half.
Yes.
But still, it's not like he's had...
he had a monster first half a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I don't know...
I'm trying to think what great third baseman would... Machado for a few years.
Yeah, I don't remember who's beating him out for these spots, but the key thing is making it. You want to make it, but it is a cool honor to make the All-Star, to be a starter. I was saying to Zach this morning, I said, you know how the players line up, on the foul lines for the All-Star announcements? Wouldn't it be funny if Stephen Kwan was leading off, Aaron Judge was hitting second, and Jose Ramirez was hitting third? Tiny, gigantic, tiny.
That's not out of their own possibility.
Is Altuve a starter too?
I didn't look at the whole list, actually.
I can't remember.
I didn't see the whole list.
Earl, if you could check that out.
I got the list in front of me. So the American League starters is Adley Rutschman, the catcher from the Orioles, Vlad Guerrero Jr. at first base, Jose Altuve at second, Jose at third, Gunnar Henderson, my boy, at shortstop, Aaron Judge from the Yankees in the outfield, Soto, Stephen Kwan, and then is it Yordan Alvarez from the Houston Astros?
Yordan Alvarez. Yeah. So you have 2 Astros. You have 2 Yankees.
Altuve will probably lead off just because he's the veteran. I would think.
Well, you could still. You have all these little guys in Aaron Judge.
Altuve's
he's tiny also.
Size of Kwan.
That is funny. Yeah. Gunnar Henderson's a bigger dude. Adley Rutschman, man, those 2 guys are fantastic.
Yeah. Orioles are locked and loaded.
And Jordan Westburg will probably make the team too. I mean, he's had a great year also.
The Orioles look like creative players, all of them. Like they just look like, these are what baseball players look like.
Yeah.
They're like, I came from Cal State Fullerton.
Yep.
My buddies from over there's from Florida.
Yeah.
And my other buddy is a pitcher for Wichita State.
I saw. Did you see this clip? I don't know if it's really going around. Gunnar Henderson's swing in high school, because there's a question of why did he fall to the second round?
Right.
If you see the swing, you'll understand
it was terrible.
Why.
Really,
he looked like a 10-year-old. It was awful.
It was so bad.
It was not at all connected. It was just. It was like I'll find it and show it to you.
Wow.
He looked like he was going to hurt himself.
That's so strange.
Yeah. It was just one swing.
Yeah.
But it was like if you wondered why Gunnar Henderson went in the second round. Here's why.
He's even got a good baseball name.
Yeah.
I was going. This is weird. I would wait till I was going to see this dude, Jason. Why? We killed them for not bringing up these guys for years. Is it me or it just seems like they just giving everybody some minutes?
I asked Zach this, and I didn't write about it, but I wonder if they are. Zach doesn't think that of course, Zach Meisel, who I work at the Athletic, who Bull does the show with. Zach doesn't think that they showcase players the way they used to for trades. I think that's what they're doing. I think that they are. Everybody's getting a turn.
Everybody.
And I wonder, and there's a greater plan at play here, and I'm not entirely sure yet what it is, but it feels like they're showing other teams. Here's Angel Martinez. Here's Jhonkensy Noel. Which one would you like?
Yeah.
Before
Jose Tena.
It was almost like y'all had to have a panel of baseball writers to bring the names up.
Well, and also they weren't ready. G, this is
this wild.
They're ready now.
It's going to be interesting to see when it comes to this trade deadline how much money they're willing to spend in terms of, are you willing to go after? Because, for example, this morning. Zach and I were talking about Chris Bassett from the Blue Jays, and Jameson Taillon from the Cubs. Jameson Taillon's on $18 million a year for the next 2 years after this year. Not unreasonable. He's been a fantastic pitcher this year. Pitched again, dominated the Phillies yesterday, one of the best lineups in baseball. We got some guys hurt. And obviously Bassett's just been he's from Ohio, good solid pitcher for a long time, older guy. But he's got 1 year left at like 20-something million, 22, 24, something like that. Now, how much are they willing? And are they willing? I wouldn't do this if I were them. I'd rather spend the money. But will the Guardians, in fact, give even more away in prospects to have these teams eat some of the money that they might want to get? But ultimately, they have to make some deals.
Well, I saw
they need a pitcher and they need a hitter. They're going to have to do that.
I need to poke around on this a little bit more, but I saw Chris Antonetti on with John Heyman on a podcast. Did you see that?
Yes.
It did not look promising in terms of the Guardians pursuing pitching. Like, I think Matthew Boyd was their big move.
Better not be.
I think it was. If you read into what he was saying.
I hear you. I'm just hoping that he's playing coy at this point. If they don't get a starting pitcher, that's a disaster. They're not going to be able to win as is, I don't think, in the playoffs with this starting rotation. I shouldn't say they're not going to be able to win. It's going to be so hard.
And Matthew Boyd was never very good.
No, he's not any good.
Like, he's an
Tommy John surgery.
He's an innings eater in his, whatever.
He can't even pitch till August.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
And he's not really. I don't think he'd be a viable post. I mean, I guess you're looking at this as Bybee, Williams, and Lively.
And listen.